I see the 15% pay gaps in the news again today. The government's going to try and do something about something that doesn't really exist and isn't really a problem. When I get into work, I'm going to take you through why it's bullshit.
So there is a small pay gap. Pay gap is like 3% once you adjust for everything, right? Average wage is $1,400, so that's like $42 a week or something that maybe women are owed because of sexism, but it may well be that they're just not walking into their boss's office and demanding a pay rise as much as men. And it may well be that there's just not enough pressure on women, like there is on men, to be the primary breadwinner. And a lot of that pressure on men comes from women anyway. So if you want to get into the whole sexism debate here, it gets really difficult. But step into my office and I'll take you through some facts. So this is the announcement from Anthony Albanese. I was a bit of a fan of Anthony Albanese, even though I don't vote for his party. I thought he was doing a good job, but this sort of stuff really bothers me. This is just stoking division, and it is lies. In my job, I get up every day and I try and be the best that I can be. I try and be masterful and give right answers to people who deserve them. The Australian public deserve the right answers, and this simply isn't it. There is not a gender pay gap of 14.2%. Those numbers are when you compare someone that's working part-time, so maybe 1 day a week, with someone that's working full-time. Why would you pay them the same? That second line there, they're saying that it's getting even worse when you account for bonuses and overtime. Well, if one gender is going for bonuses and overtime and another isn't, why would you pay them the same? I've got no problem with meritocracy. I've got no problem with guys that are asking their boss if they can have a bonus scheme or if they can work some overtime to make some more money with getting more money. That's totally fair. I don't know if any of those policies down the bottom are going to fix anything. I think there's just more likely more red tape for, I won't say small business, but medium business. But I don't think it'll get us anywhere. This is just window dressing, and this is Katie Gallagher and Anthony Albanese going for the woman vote over and over and over again. So his facts are initially true until you realise that this is the unadjusted numbers. As it is, everyone's got the same problem everywhere, always at once. So, or at least in these sort of like westernised country. And Australia's not doing so bad. But what you've got to do, wait for it people, wait for it, is look at the real numbers. These are the adjusted base gender pay gap. Like you can get it from the same website. Women make 97 cents in the dollar for what men make. And I've got no problem with a 3% gap. I don't want things to be exactly equal all the time, and any sort of gap at all is wrong. The best inflation rate isn't 0, it's between 1 and 2. The best employment rate isn't 0, it's between 3 and 5. You've got to have some give and take so that we can move and have a mobile economy with some fluidity in it. Who knows, in the future women might be making 3% more than men, but I'm not going to have a big problem then either. I think that this is fine. So what do we mean when we say the adjusted pay gap? Takes into account the employee's age, their education levels, and a few other things. So if some 23-year-old male graduates from work and goes out to an accounting firm and he's sitting next to a 50-year-old female who's been there for 30 years already, of course she should get paid more, and you should take into account the employee's age. And comparing those two would be comparing apples and oranges. It's the same if someone's got a master's degree. It's the same if someone's been working for 20 years longer. With the occupation, if there's two women with a gender studies degree and one goes and flips burgers at McDonald's and the other goes and becomes the CEO of a non-for-profit organisation focused on women's rights, you would think that they would get paid different, and they should get paid different. We can go on there, but location's a really good one. Like in the veterinary industry, the vets that stay in an inner city clinic and like spay dogs and vaccinates cats don't make as much money as people that fly all the way out to like the back of Burke where the Kidman Ranch is and spends 6 months a year on a station somewhere protesting cows, and they never go anywhere near a nightclub or a movie theatre, or they might not even have any internet out there. A person should be compensated for that. And if it tends to be men that travel out to that sort of area and do that sort of work, then yes, they should get paid more, and I've got no problem with it, and neither should you. This is a doozy that I found, that they're saying that pathologists make 75.6%, male pathologists make 75.6% more than female pathologists. Didn't they stop to think that using an unadjusted wage gap would be a problem with that? Clearly male pathologists are working 5, 6, 7 days a week, where female pathologists might be raising some kids or something in the background. But it's the line down the bottom there. These figures are not adjusted. They put it in the body of the article. These figures are not adjusted for hours worked, experience, or seniority. And they should have a full stop there, but they've gone on stupidly to say, which some experts say present a more accurate picture. What a foolish thing to say. Which expert is saying it's better not to take hours into account? This is the real story. Anyone that doesn't tell you this real story is lying to you, but I'll tell it to you because I don't want to lie to you. I want you to be informed. It's about retirement age. Well, there's 3 big parts to this, and the first one is the retirement age. Look at that. Men tend to retire about 59. Women tend to retire about 52. Men have got 7 years. The average wage rate for someone at about that age is about 80 grand a year. So we've got 7 years making 80 grand a year when women are not making that sort of money. And that's the big money for all workers everywhere. If you're in a profession, if you're at a uni degree, it's much bigger than that again. It's like 150 grand a year. So when women get to 52 and they should be making those big dollars, they retire, and their potential to make big dollars and to drag the average female wage rate up goes away when they retire. And it's benevolent that the husbands say to the wives, look, we don't need the money anymore. The kids have left the home. I'll work, you retire. Men should be, it should be acknowledged that they're being charitable and compassionate in doing that and helping their wives out. Their wives have the kids, they should retire earlier. But all it is just accusations of sexism. It's the same with, in the first slide when they were saying that, I'll go right back to it actually. They're saying here that in some industries like healthcare and social services, men earn as much as 32% more on average than their female colleagues. You know why? Because those industries are wonderful industries that are compassionate, and they say to their employees, you work as many hours as you feel as though you should. So the females who are raising the kids in those industries say, you know what, I'd like to work part-time. And they say, great, go for it. We're not going to make you work a 40-hour week when you don't want to. And that's why you get an unadjusted wage gap that's so big. But they demonize those industries that are doing a good job and are trying their hardest to make people happy. I, for one, don't like it. A lot of people say that the reason that women retire at 52 is because they have to take care of ill, disabled, or elderly people. But that's not true. Only 8% of women are doing that. 92% aren't retiring for those reasons. In fact, 46% of those women are retiring just because they've reached retirement age and they're done. And good luck to them. They probably are done working and they should retire. It's going to affect the wage gap, and I've got no problem with that. And this goes to super as well. They're saying that the median superannuation balance for men is about 200,000 and for women about 150,000. Of course, we work longer. 7 years at 80 grand, 7/8 of 56. Yeah, that's about right. That's almost perfect. That's exactly what you'd expect to see. So that extra 7 years is why we've got a bigger superannuation balance. This is stoking gender wars, and I don't like it. The second big problem is that women tend to stay home to raise their children. And if they want to, that's what they should do. If you've got a kid under the age of 14, there's about a 50% chance if you're female, you're working part-time, but only about a 8, 9, 10% chance of working part-time if you're male because of this, if you're a father. Great, I've got no problem with it. They should work part-time. Their employers should allow them the chance to work part-time. I personally have taken advantage of this. The part-time female is a wonderful employee that totally fills a gap, and she's good at her job, but there's no point in comparing her wage to the man that works full-time in an unadjusted pay gap. So this is from an article, and this is another example of something that bothers me. For every 100 women enrolled in a university in Australia, there are just 72 men. I notice we're doing nothing about that, and we're not calling it an education gap, and the government hasn't got a policy to fix this. It's just, well, men make different choices, and we do. We go into trades. There's no problem here. I don't want this fixed. But you know what? Women make different choices too. But on that one, the government has to get involved and go save the damsel. But it goes on down and says that, goes further down the bottom that says this Grattan Institute report found that female university graduates are expected to earn 27% less than men and about $750,000 over their career. Yes, that's right. Because when you earn about 80 grand a year and you work 7 years less, that turns out to be about, $600,000 less. And then when you take into account the 14 years that women will work part-time, yep, that makes up the rest. I've got no problem with that. They should earn $750,000 a year less if they're going to retire earlier and if they're going to work part-time during childbearing years. They've even said this themselves in the article, that one of the reasons is self-selecting segregation into which area of studies that they do. And that's the third reason that I want to go into that creates the pay gap. Yes, we've discussed early retirement already and work to have children. Part-time work having children, but women tend to graduate into fields that make less money, but not the first year out. The real reason that we can fix this, Anthony Albanese's plan isn't going to work, and I don't think it should work, and I don't think we should close the gap. But if you want something that you really want to close it with, you must force women and girls to study different courses. You need to make women marry men who want to stay at home and raise kids so they can go to work. I don't think women want to do that for what it's worth, and you need to stop women retiring so early, which is terrible. Women should retire when they want to retire, but that's the only real way you will close this gap. Here is the university degrees that men and women tend to get. Women are in the darker color here. So commerce, about 50%, education, about 75%, engineering, about 15%, And it goes on. What's really interesting about that is the first year here is 1987. Cyndi Lauper was big. The last year here is 2018. Ariana Grande or someone was big. Nothing changes. Look at those lines. They're basically flat. Let's move on. Nursing. Look at that. It's basically flat. We haven't done anything in all this time to get women into different careers. Same with other health, psychology, science, a bit of a change. A few more women in it, but they look like they got out for a while. Humanities, the same. IT went backwards. Almost all males now. It was at least like 25% female, but now it's down at like 17%. Law, a few women going into law. I'm guessing family law and medicine. Yeah, it's about 50-50. There's a few more women, but nothing's really changed. And in the first year out, it isn't the case that women go into lower paying jobs if you look at that data. IT, when there's only 17% females, is one of the lower paying ones. Nursing, when it's almost all women, make about the same. The highest paying one, medicine, is sat right in the middle, and two of the lower paying ones, commerce and humanities, at either side. So I don't think women make the lowest amount of money in their first year out. However, everyone in their first year out makes hardly any money, and majority of the people that make hardly any money for no other reason than it's their first year out are women. So that's a big reason too. This is another table that shows the same thing, but it includes society and culture studies and creative arts studies. So these people flip burgers, and it's all female. It's very female dominated, this sort of group of people that aren't going to go on and have careers at all. However, this is the wage rate over the full life expectancy of the job from first year to the last year that you work in it. The highlighted yellow ones are male-dominated industries. That sort of like purpley magenta plum color is female-dominated industries. So women are going into the wrong areas if they want to close the pay gap. They're going into the right areas if they're doing what they want to do with their life, and I support them in their decision. But there's always going to be a pay gap so long as this continues. You want to deal with the whole women that stay at home and raise the kids thing. You've got to get fathers to take, someone's got to raise the kid, right? So it's either the mother or the father. In 2011, only 4% of stay-at-home parents were fathers. That's important. This is in Australia. Whatever, 4%. It's nothing. Like, who cares? We're just not doing it. And it is improving a little bit, but improving from 1.5% to like 4% over a long period of time, I don't know. Who cares, right? In the EU, in 2018, a third of women had their work affected by childcare reasons, but only 1% of men. Like, Europe's way worse than we are. The US initially looks, from the closing the pay gap perspective, better, with 17% of stay-at-home parents being fathers, but only 24% of them wanted to be. The rest were either temporarily unemployed or sick or on leave. But if you look at the 83% of women that are the stay-at-home parent, 73% of them want to be the stay-at-home parent. It's their choice. That's the woman that says, I want to be a stay-at-home mother. And she should, if that's her choice. Just don't blame them as being sexist when there's a pay gap at the end of it. This is a set of stats from my dissertation that prove that women tend to go after rich men. You can pause here and read this all if you want. There is that much data out there that suggests that if you're a guy that goes into a nightclub or into a single scene or onto online dating and says, I don't want to make any money, I don't have a career, I don't have a degree, I've got no plan on having any income coming in, I just want to raise kids, women will find you unattractive and they're unlikely to date you and to marry you and to have kids with you. However, if you're the guy that says, look, I've got fat stacks and I can pay for a lot of things, then yeah, the women will tend to marry you. Ergo, she doesn't want you staying home and raising the kids because you can make big money. Women value income at 9 to 14 points higher than men do. And this is a really good one. Of 6,300 divorces, a husband's lack of full-time employment is associated with a higher risk of divorce. Guys, if you do part-time work, your wife might leave you. But neither the wife's full-time employment nor her amount of work she does around the house is associated with the divorce risk at all. We don't divorce women because they can't cook or clean, and we don't divorce women because they don't earn big money or they don't work full-time. We don't just divorce women, period. Actually, 80% of divorces are started by women. So guys, don't work part-time, and we know it, and that's why we don't. So we've got this problem that women live longer and they need more money because they live longer, but they earn less while they work, but then they choose to retire earlier. This doesn't make any sense. Women are very smart. Why are they doing this? You know why they're doing it? Because they have their husband's money to spend. Everyone's forgetting this thing. But whatever I earn, my wife can spend. She's not looking at her bank balance and saying, how much money has I got? She's looking at all of our bank balances and saying, how much money do I have? If it was really the case that women made 15% less, then they'd buy 15% less. And you know that isn't happening. Women paid more for toys and shavers and 48% more for shampoo, despite the fact that they're the same thing, because they've got more money. Now, we know they don't have as much money because of the unadjusted 15% pay gap, but they can afford 48% more in shampoo because they're just spending their husband's money, which is fine. That's what a marriage is. There's 7 times more space devoted to women than men in shopping centres. Women account for 85% of all consumer purchases, and even though they only earn 13 trillion, they spend 20 trillion. That 7 trillion gap, which is like 50% more than they earn, comes from their husbands and I suppose a bit from debt. The real reasons for the pay gap are the following. You've got to try and deal with this. Women want a rich man. That puts pressure on us to have careers, and so we outcompete women. Women study what they find interesting, and good luck to them too. But men study what makes money so they can have a wife. Women value raising children over sitting in a damn cubicle doing long division or something for a boss they don't even care about. They want to go home and raise their kids who they actually care about. And they've got no great pressure to earn their own money because they've all got rich husbands, and well, hopefully they've all got rich husbands because it seems to be what they want, and they can just spend their husband's money. The pay gap isn't the issue you think it is. Here's the solutions. Find a way of destroying hypergamy. You'll never do it. It's hundreds of thousands of years old. Force women to study the degrees that will make them the big money. I think that's evil. You shouldn't do it. Let people do what they want. Mothers must leave their children at home with carers or with their husbands, which they won't find attractive, and go back to work. But that's terrible. I would hate for a mother to do that if that's what she didn't want to do. And you must make women work until their late 60s, even though they don't really want to. Again, evil, wouldn't do it. So that's it. Pay gap, total non-issue. Trying to close it is, I think, evil. You've got to make people do things they don't want to do. We have a 3% adjusted pay gap. I've got no problem with that. And if you let women just do what they want and you measure what they earn versus what we earn, yeah, it's a 15% gap, but it's fair. And it's not as though they don't have any money anyway. They've got their husband's money. This is a dumb issue, and I don't know what the government's doing with this. Anthony Albanese has lost me on this. See you guys. Oh, like and subscribe and all that sort of stuff, right?